And welcome back everybody to Big D Gaming's very first mini DCS tutorial for the A10 Warthog. Now I'm making this one because I've had a fair bit of experience now in the A10C for DCS. And I thought I'm just going to make something to be able to help those that are wanting to be able to upgrade from the A10A or maybe jumping into the A10C from another aeroplane. Now this is not designed to be able to teach you the ins and outs of the A10. I do not have enough experience in the systems and the lingo to be able to do that for you, but hopefully this just might teach you a thing or two that I have learnt, or something just to be able to convince you from upgrading from the A10A to the A10C, or just jumping over from another aeroplane. Now I'm going to break this down into a few different sections. Currently for the head tracking, I'm not actually using one of the infrared ones. I'm using a system called OpenTrack. This just uses your webcam, it's free, and it's a really good way to be able to just get into it, so that way you don't have to be able to use your mouse to be able to move your head around. It's way too difficult to be able to do that. I found it impossible, and I did want to fork out the hundreds of dollars to be able to go and buy one of those IR trackers. Pain in the neck. So this is the option for you to be able to use. I am on the latest V7. I found the V6 really shaky, but the V7 is perfect. It is buttery smooth. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be able to show you exactly what weapons I run first. So for myself, I'll show you exactly. So the weapon system that I use, I've got two different ones. I've got a cluster and a laser version. It's only changing one real thing though. I'll go with the laser version. So now my airframe is really kitted out to be able to take on everything. I want to be able to make sure that I'm going air and air to ground. So what I've done is on the outside pylons, I've got the sidewinders. I've got my T-pod here. And then I've got the Mavericks on the side, using the, well, what I like to call the dumb rockets, but the M151s, and then using our JDAM GPS guided. I find that running a laser and a GPS guided is really helpful for me to be able to hit the moving targets with the laser, or smaller targets being a 500 pounder, and the bigger GPS ones, so I can launch multiple and then wave off. For something like your command centers, which need a lot of firepower to be able to take out, this is the best loadout for me. Now, as you can see, slightly heavy, so this thing does not move very well until I release a few thousand pounds off it, but that's just how I roll, sorry. Now, with the flares, I'll keep them pretty much at that, keep the combat mix here. Like I said, the only other difference is this one just using the CB97, if I feel like doing some nose diving to be able to release some of those clusters. Otherwise we just go with this one here.
Request refueling.
Now what I'm going to do is, whilst that's loading up, I'm going to exactly show you what I do. Now if it's nighttime, I know that you can program these on some switches, but if we're flying night, then you might see a lot of us doing videos for, I'll make sure that we turn these light switches off. That way you're a little bit harder to see from your enemies. Now I'm going to be able to hit F2 and watch this thing load itself up. Now if you're in the A10A, you're going to find a lot of things that I found, especially with stuff like the autopilot and some of the other systems that you just did not have the ability to be able to use, like the T-pod. So you were doing so much using just the Mavericks. If, for example, the Maverick Seekers, I had to use everything through the Seeker head. It was really shaky, and I wasn't able to properly actually steady the plane, so I definitely recommend that you learn these few things and upgrade to the A10C. I just had to change a couple of different things and I was flying. The principles are so much the same. Now my startup procedure is, oops, turn all of these on, put the flaps down now before I forget, because she's heavy, all the way down to 20, and now this is the awesome trick. Now, I forget what the A10A does, but I think that might already be preloaded in this DSMS. Over here, what I'll do though, is I'll show you, instead of selecting one by one, you're going to hold stat down, click load, and then click stat twice, then hit load all. That is going to load every last one of your weapons within your DSMS system. Now once this disappears, which I think it's about 10 to 20 seconds, you then need to load your Mavs, which I'll be able to show you that one as well. A lot of the A10A was just using your joystick to be able to cycle through stuff, but it's a little bit more complex with the A10C, but very easy to pick up. I'll click Mav, EO on, and after about 3 minutes, the Mav Seeker screen will show up. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go and take off, and then I'll be able to show you how to use some of those weapon systems the way that I use them. Now just remembering the taking off, the landing, all that sort of jazz is the same with the A10A going to the A10C. If you're already using a high fidelity model for an aeroplane, you're going to find this quite easy to be able to pick up. Alrighty, now that I'm in the air, I'm going to run you through. So I've put my flaps up, and then this is the feature the A10A does not have, and that's autopilot. So I'll click that one on to be able to hold the altitude. It makes life so much easier. Now I can use my hand to be able to use the mouse to be able to do everything with the cockpit. Now what you'll see before is in this DSMS, all of the weapons are now loaded. You don't have to try and navigate through to be able to individually select them. I'm going to start with the Mavs. I'm going to go back to the Mav, and now it's been over 3 minutes, so it becomes soy. Now there's two ways you can do this. You can either make it soy by with your coolie switch, or easy thing of already holding my mouse. I'm just going to click the Mav, and that makes it soy as well. Some people don't use their mouse as much. Some will just use the switches on the HOTAS. I prefer the mouse. It's just simpler, quicker, and then I don't get confused between some of the screens. Now this is what you don't have in the A10A. T-pod. Click TGP, air to ground. Now this is, to be able to make this one soy, click here. Now you can't have these both soy at the same time, but that's fine. So now what I'm going to use is big silver dish to be able to zoom in and out, and that little switch where your thumb is on your throttle control to be able to move around. Now currently it's in black hot, you can hit M, make it white hot. Use the silver dish, be able to zoom right in. Now this is how you just be able to get a target from a distance. TGM up, hold long. And now this is where you would normally use your Mav if you're an A10A. You would go to Mav. Now to be able to make this snap onto this target, hold your coolie switch long. And this is where you would normally be in an A10A. You would single forward with the A10 switch, sorry, with the coolie switch, TGM up. See how it does that vibrating? Same as an A10A, and then you would release your weapon. Now what I would then do is then I would just continue using the Mav Seeker to be able to move around, find some targets, go release, 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 and release. So all I've done is I've used the T-pod to be able to find that first target.
Warning, autopilot.
Oops, autopilot's not happy. And then continue to use the Mav Seeker thereafter. Boom. So it makes it easier to be able to use that T-pod to be able to find your very first target, and then use your Mav Seeker to then just absolutely start decimating. That's the difference between the A10A going into the A10C, is how easy that is to be able to use. Now we're going to use the T-pod to be able to start dropping a few bombs. I'm going to show you exactly how I do that. Okay, so now that I've shown you the Mavs, I'm going to be able to show you now the JDAMs. So the GB31s, which are your GPS guided. Click these puppies here. I'm going to switch over to our T-pod. Now if it's not soy, I'll just click here to be able to make it soy. Now I've got it on the air to ground mode, and as you can see, that little diamond indicates exactly where it's facing. Now I'm going to be able to move that around. What I'm going to do is going to be able to locate this airport. This airport, say for example there's a target here I want to be able to take out. Press up, TMS, hold long. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my autopilot. See, we've got a nice long line. So we'll be able to line up that line with that squared dot that's on the ground. What's going to happen is on the far left hand side it says R01. That's how much time until I reach that target. Now just above that you see something that's counting down. It's like 4.8, 4.7. What's going to happen is like a big C square box is going to open up below that. And then it should say down the very bottom of my screen manual release. Once it hits into that C box, that's everywhere that you can be able to release that weapon for the JDAM to be able to drop. Now you will not normally drop these on these sort of targets. So you can see the C box is really small. If I was up much higher, it'd be much longer, so that way I have more time. Now you can see that 2.3, 2.4, it's slowly going down. Once that's in that C box, I'm going to be able to release my weapons. Hold, and see how it's slightly shook. So I held down the manual release. My weapon will be now away. There's that beautiful JDM. It's going to curve over and absolutely bust it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the rear view, from plane view, watch that come down. Now I did overshoot a little bit there, so that can happen at times if I am not pinpointed on to my target. Now probably what happened was I didn't have my laser exactly on the target. It can move. So just for some fun, I'm going to go back in and do that one exactly again, just to be able to re-show you exactly what to do and make sure it actually hits the target this time. It does happen where you will miss targets. I've seen plenty of experienced pilots do the same. So I'm going to go for where we destroyed our vehicles earlier with the Mavs. Put on autopilot so I can fully focus. See how it's locked on where its previous target was? I don't want that. I want to reset. And I want to be able to zoom back out with the silver hat all the way down and re-lock onto a new target. So we'll go up TMS and hold, and there you can see same sort of system over here. There's 6.8 that will count down and a C box will open there, and then this is the time to target. Once it's in that C box, I'll then hold for the manual release. Sometimes in the past it's shown up down here. It just depends on a certain height. You can do auto release for certain things. You can hold down the actual release button and it will drop, but it doesn't always work for me, so that's why I just hold it once it gets into that box. So I've lined up autopilot. I don't have to do anything here if I don't want to, but I usually take autopilot off just so I have a bit more control. Now that timer's going down, C box has appeared. You'll be able to watch and feel the plane shake a little once that releases. So it's within that box there, it says the manual release will come up. Hold manual release, plane shakes a little bit. Hold autopilot again. Hopefully this one will hit directly on target. That's looking perfect. Boom. So that's how I use the JDAMs. They're really, really helpful. It means you don't have to keep your laser here locked onto the target all times. I could then start firing at other targets if I wanted to. I can also release 2 JDAMs within that one time. I just click and hold the manual release again. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to show you the laser version that I use, which is the GBE12s. These are really, really helpful if I've got a convoy or something like that. It's very much the same system as what I use over here, but there's one extra step that you have to do. Once you click your GBE12s, hit profile, change it to CCRP mode and hit save. That's absolutely imperative, otherwise they will not release. Now, I'm going to reset. Actually, I won't reset, and I'll show you exactly what it does. If I was to keep that locked on, and I was to do a UE.
Warning, autopilot.
Alright, so now that I'm sitting roughly around about 5,000 when it comes to altitude, I've put on that autopilot. Now my T-pod, the good thing about a T-pod is it stays where you're looking at. So I'm going to click back onto the T-pod, zoom back out, using the silver dish on my joystick. Sometimes it'll auto lock onto some of the targets, but I'm still going to press up to lock onto it manually. Hold long up, that's on your TMS. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click to be able to activate the laser. So see how that changes to your L for laser. Now that's the pinky switch on your X56 Rhino on the joystick. That will lock in the laser. Now, very similar to how your GBUs work, you've got a line there, and what you want to do is line this line up with that line there. Now, this won't give you a timer or anything on this side here. What it does is that as you get closer, this circle here will go down and it will have a timer. Once that is over, this circle part here, it will release. Now with this one here, I find that I can actually hold down the release button and it will then auto release. It doesn't always work for my JDAMs, so that's why I prefer the JDAMs over it, but it's really personal preference as to exactly how you use each weapon and what your preference is. But I carry both because it's really good for multiple applications. So let's line this sucker up. As you can see up the very top now, it's counting down from 20. That'll get to 0, so what I can actually do is I will wait till it gets a little bit closer. If I was to hold the release now and then look at my airframe, it has not released yet. So let's wait for it to go down, and it should have released. See how it's not there anymore? Go F6. Now all I did was wait for that countdown to go all the way down, and it went over 0 and it auto released off. Boom. And that destroyed right there. So I clicked off and I could have been able to show you, but that timer just went all the way down the circle, it went over and it hit 0. Now you can click and hold the release once it hits that 1 or that 0 mark there, but sometimes it's easier just to be able to hold it down. It's really personal preference as to what you do. So now the main thing is with that lazy, yes, it's a few extra steps, but it will take on moving targets. Now the next thing that I'm going to show you is the sidewinders. Now I don't have any aircrafts to be able to actually take on with the sidewinders, but I'll show you how to do it. So if you're using your T-pod, click back to standby, because otherwise it doesn't allow you to do one of the steps. Simply click sidewinders, and if you're used to the A10, you're going to know that whining sound that it makes in that little circle part here. But an extra little awesome thing that you can do is you can press up on the TMS and it makes it circle. What that means is it's going to search in a wider area for you to be able to then take on your targets. Then you would release as per normal. That's the main real difference when it comes to your sidewinders. And your M151s, I love these little dumb rockets here. Now these will automatically be on CCIP. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through.
Warning, autopilot.
I'm going to take on some targets here. These ones I'll use if I do not have my cannon. The cannon works identically in the A10C to the A10A. The only difference is that the cannon will have an extra dot below the main dot that will actually show you where to shoot from at a distance. So I'll quickly be able to switch and show you that one, because you can do that right from your thumb. So I'll line that small dot up just like you normally would. Fire away. Let's release some. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to my guns by clicking the silver switch that you normally would. See how there's a second dot below? I can hold that one down over the target. That's like a bit of a distance indicator. So that's some of the tips and tricks and the way that I use my weapons in the A10C. Hopefully this has convinced you to be able to then change the A10C, or if you want to give it a crack from some of the other airframes you use, you might find some similarities there between, say for example, your F-15s, your F-18s. There's a lot of systems that are different, but there's some that can cross over, and if you're able to pick up any other high fidelity models, then you'll be able to pick up this one quite easily. Now if you have any questions, please drop those in the comment box. I'm going to be dropping a few links in there for the head tracker, the AI tracker that I use for this, and I might drop in some of the helpful other channels that go into great detail on how to fly the A10, have a lot more lingo for you to be able to jump across to this airframe. Otherwise, that's all for today, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks guys.